There's nothing quite like an internet wrestling fan, or I guess in 2019, a wrestling fan in general, and that's what I want to talk about. Well, not really talk about today. That's how we're going to tie it all in. We're going to drag it around and we'll do something a little bit different. It's my vlog series. Welcome. If you've never joined before, my name is Simon Miller. Please subscribe to the channel if you haven't done that previously. That's what we do here on YouTube. Don't know what I'm doing with my face. I just thought, you know, I'm going to try and do more vlogs this week. So I thought, well, I want to make sure that I divvy them up. And if you do watch the old ones and you still want to do the stuff about mental health, depression, we're still going to do that. Not leaving that behind. It's incredibly important to me. That's why I started them. But I also want to be diverse and varied, and I want to come up with different things. So as I sat here today wondering what I could talk about, I just so happened to stumble across the Ronda Rousey t-shirt that got released this week. In fact, let me get it up on my little computer here, and I'll make sure it flashes up on the screen as well. This is just how we do things here. I've never done this before. It's not. I don't really shoot. Oh, I can't talk. I don't usually search for things like this, but you know, things different. So there it is. It says restricted. Under 17 requires accompanying mark, so that's an insider term right there, or adult guardian, no respect for the business, breaks kayfabe, violence, and language. And obviously it's got the Ronda Rousey R on it. I mean, it's not just based on this t-shirt alone, but clearly we're getting two dividing camps here as I make sure that my audio stuff gets back up. We've got two dividing camps. Obviously, we've got the people that think this is a travesty and that Ronda Rousey shouldn't be doing this, especially because she's only been being arrested the last year or so. And you've got the other camp who, I guess there's three camps. The other camp who are like, no, they like it, they think it's enjoyable. And then the secret third camp, which is where I think I fall in, I'm just enjoying it because it's sending everybody crazy. I will admit that maybe we didn't need this for the story we're telling with Charlotte Flair, Becky Lynch, and Ronda Rousey. It's kind of taken maybe a few more twists and turns than it needed it to, and maybe that's diluted it a little bit. But to me, this is bigger than the sum of its parts. Like, if those three do go and last at WrestleMania 35, which I hope they do, for the Raw Women's Championship, you know, I think that'll be a big tick box in the WWE column, something that should have happened a long time ago, but hey-ho, you know, was it better late than never, but better never late. And, I mean, just on that note, too, the reason I think they should absolutely do it now is because you don't know where you're going to be at WrestleMania 36. Hopefully the women's division will be in an even better place than it is now. But if it's not, I mean, again, hopefully it will be. But if it's not, look, everything's in place. So, you know, strike when the iron's hot and all that kind of stuff. So I do hope they do it. And that's the most important thing here. But yes, having Ronda Rousey do backstage interviews on her own YouTube channel talking about breaking kayfabe and going off script on Twitter and, you know, saying on Raw that this is a carnival and it's all, she doesn't usually use the word fake on Raw. I'd say the only thing I really didn't like, and I said this on Ups and Downs on What Culture if you've seen me there, not a big fan of the commentary team jumping into it. You know, Michael Cole shouting, Ronda Rousey's gone rogue. I'm like, well, no, now you're not meant to know that it's rogue because you're not meant to know that it's scripted. You know, it's a strange and complicated topic to talk about because there's kind of two different waves going parallel to each other. But the more I thought about it, I think for me, I watch wrestling and it may be in a different way to how most people do it. And you can say, how is this going to affect WWE long term? Is it good for the business? Is it bad for the business? You know, you should be able to do that. I think as a fan or even a non-fan, you should be able to critique anything. That's our right as human beings. But I guess I'm much more of a in the now kind of a guy, which again, if you watched my vlogs before, you won't be surprised to hear. And I just love that all of this has sparked the debate. And that's what I think the best thing about it is. Like, no, I don't think when Ronda Rousey came in at WrestleMania 34, anybody thought, oh, in 12 months' time, she's going to be, you know, dabbling around what pro wrestling is. And I kind of love the fact, and I don't know if it's necessarily helping ratings or interest in the match. I think I'd probably have to sit down and do a bit more research into it. I mean, the Raw rating hasn't bumped up for it, doesn't seem. But maybe more people are now interested in watching WrestleMania. I mean, Miesha Tate, the MMA fighter, I know on her podcast, she claimed all this was true. And Ronda Rousey, you know, what did she say? When she burns her muffins or something like that. She had a really weird turn of phrase for getting annoyed. And I personally think this is all a work. So, you know, Miesha Tate, I would argue, has also been worked. But, you know, Miesha Tate could whip my ass. So I'm not going to talk about that too much. But yeah, I just like the fact that it sparks debate. And I like the fact, okay, look, some people on the internet go too far and they go crazy. And I'm like, let's just insult the angle and insult the stuff around it. But don't insult the people trying to do it because they're just human beings. I mean, that ties into everything we've talked about social media here and how it can be a toxic place and how we probably need to be a bit more thoughtful about this stuff. But hey-ho. I think Ronda Rousey can probably handle herself. But that's my favourite thing, is that it bleeds out into everything else. You can go over to Squared Circle on Reddit, you can go on Twitter, you can go on Facebook, you can go to podcasts like I do. Simon's Pro Wrestling Podcast goes live every Wednesday here on YouTube. And And there is always something to discuss. And, Brian over there will be like, oh, well, I quite like it. But Laura over here will be like, well, I'm not so sure. And I think that's my favourite thing about wrestling right now. If we could ever get to the point where it was actually balanced debates and it didn't become a slagging match, it would be even better. But I just don't think we ever will, because that's the nature of the beast. And I'm also intrigued to see how it plays out. I mean, the real reason I don't have an issue with it is because I know what's going to happen, in my opinion anyway. Becky Lynch will win at WrestleMania 35, and then coming out the back of that, if Ronda Rousey does decide to take time off, but even if she doesn't, as soon as they veer away from doing this, we do live in a culture that's so reactionary that I think we will forget about it. And there'll still be chats where people go, oh, do you remember when Ronda Rousey did that? And hey, she's got a kayfabe breaking t-shirt. I'm sure there have been others in the past, but I can't remember one that actually had kayfabe written on it. And then the flip side reversal to this, and I think she may have come out and said this too, is that her breaking kayfabe has kind of, in a weird way, brought back kayfabe. Because we're now debating, or some of us are, I'm 99.9% sure this is all part of the story. But there are, fractions of people out there who are now saying, oh, well, maybe WWE didn't say she should do this, but she has done it, and now WWE retroactively is trying to catch up, which of course would mean that this wasn't part of any angle or any narrative. Ronda Rousey, as they say, went into business for herself, and now they're trying to make sense of it. I can't believe anybody would get away from that. It's the same with the Brock Lesnar thing. The Brock Lesnar story for the last 12 months or so is that Brock Lesnar doesn't want to come to Raw, so he won't. In reality, Brock Lesnar just has a very good contract. If you ask him to come, he'll come. You just have to pay him a lot of money. So I presume WWE says, well, don't overuse him. We don't want to spend that money when we don't have to. It makes Brock more of a special attraction. But, especially... Actually, we'll talk about the Brock Lesnar belt throwing in a second. But... so it has actually kind of brought kayfabe back. But again, as soon as we get out the other side of WrestleMania, let's say that Ronda Rousey retains her belt at Mania. Nobody will be talking about she broke kayfabe. The focus will instantly shift into talking about, I can't believe they gave it to Ronda. This is a travesty. They hate Becky and so on and so forth. Which, that's kind of why I don't think it is a big deal and it isn't a big deal. It's a big deal now because, again, I love all the elements that come with it. But it's not a big deal because we'll move on so quickly. That's just the world we live in. I guess the internet growing has made everything is like boom, 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 boom all the time. And we don't really get long-term storyline in WWE anymore. I know down in NXT we had Gargano versus Ciampa, and that was great. Unfortunately ruined by Ciampa's injury, and all the best to him. But it's hard to see that we're going to look in 6 years' time and go, if they hadn't done that angle with Ronda Rousey, the business would be in a better position. I don't agree. And like I say, I'm really happy that we get to sit here and chat. And I already know in the comments, some people will be getting really mad about it because some people get really mad about it when pro wrestling does it, even though it's better than when it's boring. Like so many times you do watch wrestling, you think, well, it's not really making me feel something. This is making you feel, and it's making you emotional, and it's making you react. And I think I've got to the point in my life, I love pro wrestling. It's my biggest passion in the world, but I know deep down, if it went away tomorrow, we would just move on. And so in that case, I enjoy it day to day, I enjoy it week to week. It's probably why I enjoy Raw more than some people would appreciate on ups and downs, but I do. And I will always be that way. I find it much more fun. But I will say this as a critique point of view, going back to the Brock Lesnar thing. When Brock Lesnar chucked the Universal Championship with Vince McMahon after WrestleMania 34, that to me was the best way to skirt around kayfabe, because I had mates texting me and sending me messages going, Miller, is this real or is it a work? WWE never really addressed it full on. When you do see it, it does look real, but no one has ever said, be that commentary team or anyone else, it's real or it's not real. It's left to your devices to try and work out. And I would say, if I did have to take shots at what they're doing at the moment, it's a little bit on the nose. Like someone staring it down the camera going, this is a work. You think you could probably be a bit more nuanced than that. You do start moving into WCW territory. I keep making this comparison, but it is the worst example that I can think of. So why try and get another one when I think it was Goldberg versus Kevin Nash. I think it was Scott Steiner. I remember it was a triple threat of some sorts for the WCW title, and Goldberg walked out. And Tony Schiavone told us Goldberg is walking out because the rest of the wrestlers aren't following the script for the moves they'd arranged in the back. Which creates this kind of dynamic where you think, okay, so the commentators know that it's not real. So they're my eyes and ears, so straight away I'm being told it's not real. But I'm meant to believe that what's happening is real, because after they had the chat in the back as friends, because it's a work, now they've all fallen out, because Kevin Nash and Scott Steiner, whoever it was, and it's so convoluted, it's so confusing. People like you and I, or if you are a super hardcore wrestling fan, you'll get it. But casual fans, their heads must have exploded. How are you meant to keep up with that? What does it even mean? And I don't want to go down. I never want to go down that. And I think anytime you have the commentators saying things like that, you are you're skirting with the issue with a little bit. But every time I see Ronda Rousey's name in a headline now, I do get a little bit excited, and I maybe jump on Twitter and Facebook to see if anyone's going crazy. So I'm all right with it. I'm okay. I do hope Becky Lynch wins at WrestleMania 35. To be honest, wouldn't be completely adverse to somebody else winning. I don't like swerves for swerve's sake, but I feel like there could potentially be options. Although I will say that Becky Lynch is the overwhelming favourite, and she's the fan favourite too, and I think you probably would come into a bit of a backlash. So it's probably not the best idea. I just mean from a personal point of view, I don't think I'd be super outraged. And also, like, they did it last year with Roman Reigns, right? Everyone, if you're doing like bets or prediction leagues, everybody thought Roman Reigns was going to win that match, and he didn't. So you just never know what they're going to do. And the other question, maybe we'll answer this on this week's podcast, is you have three babyfaces, three feel-good babyface wins on the table. Seth Rollins, Kofi Kingston, Becky Lynch. Do they do all three? I've been arguing yes, because by and large, that's the kind of event WrestleMania has been. But it's a tough one. You're asking a lot. Are you really going to have Brock Lesnar win again 2 years in a row? You're going to risk Becky Lynch? So that puts the target right on Kofi Kingston's back. He wasn't even part of the plan, don't forget. He fell into his, so I think it's going to be interesting. Hopefully we'll do more wrestling vlogs going forward, just little things like this. But again, please do tune into the podcast for more of my ramblings. And given the time this is going up, I'll put a link in the description below. Brand new Simon Miller Slaphead t-shirt is online now. It's literally just a silhouette of me slapping my head. So head on over to simonmiller.bigcartel.com, or again, description in the link below, and you can buy one. They're pre-ordered at the moment, and obviously soon I have all my samples on to wear, and I'll plug them visually. But like, share, subscribe, leave a comment below, calling me an asshole. You know how it goes. Subscribe to the channel. Thanks for watching me. I'll see you again tomorrow.